Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another Google Hangout with Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. My name is Joe Gabrowski. For those who don't know, we're all about bringing science, adventure, and conservation into classrooms in North America, and hopefully a little bit further than that too. Very excited today to be joined by Shah Selbe. Hi, Shah. Shah, how are you doing today?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. Awesome. So I'm going to give Shah just a little intro, and then I'll let him take over because he's got all the good stuff to share today. So Shah is a National Geographic Explorer. His day job is a satellite propulsion systems engineer, but he has a few other specialties. He uses drones and other technology in a system called FishNET to use technology to try and see if there's a way to track and report illegal fishing. He also joins the expedition into the Okavango Delta each year, building really cool sensors to monitor the waters in the Delta in real time. So they're setting up, they have a goal to set up hundreds of these sensors around the Delta. And also, he's the unofficial social media face of Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants, because I have a picture of him when you joined my class up on our YouTube page. I think it might still be on the Twitter. So he's the unofficial, unpaid spokesperson, I guess, the image of Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. So again, great to have you here today. We have a great group of classrooms from North America and Canada and the US, and they're really excited to hear a little bit about your adventures and what you get to do.
Great, thanks. Hi, everyone. My name is Shah Selbe. I'm going to kind of tell you a little bit of some stories about some of the work that I did and some background behind it, but I'm really looking forward to hearing some of your questions. Let me share this screen. All right, so can everybody see that?
Yeah, looks good.
Okay, great. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the work that I do. As Joe said, I'm a rocket scientist. That's my day job. That rocket that you see standing behind me right there is my satellites at the very top of that, and so that's what I do kind of on a daily basis, which is very exciting and it's fun. And actually, I'll tell you a story about the rocket that's sitting up in that little launch vehicle right there. The satellite was up there, and that rocket actually it failed on launch, so it exploded, and we lost that satellite, which was kind of a bummer, but it was also the first time I've ever had one of my projects explode, so that's kind of an exciting thing. But I'm also an explorer with the National Geographic Society, and so what that basically means is I get to do a lot of really exciting stuff and travel all over the world working on projects that I'm very passionate about, and I'll tell you about a little bit more. With National Geographic, and they kind of support me and back me on a lot of that stuff. So, I'm an engineer, and I'm going to show this little video that shows like why National Geographic cares about engineers and all the exciting things that National Geographic engineers get to do.
Sorry, Shah, can you just pull your headphones out? I think that might be keeping the volume from us.
Okay.
There we go.
If it was easy, someone else would do it. Good to go. Science and exploration changed my life, and I became the youngest person to fly solo around the world. Everything we do has something to do with math and science.
We build these missions that go out and explore these distant worlds.
There's an amazing amount of work that goes into figuring out how to land spacecraft. Parachute technology, rocket technology.
It's all about innovation.
Now we're building things to understand more about the world around us. From robotics to data mining to 3D imaging. You need a team of people that are not going to be stopped where the road ends.
I'm using satellites to map and model ancient civilizations.
I use underwater robotic vehicles to survey the seafloor for ancient shipwrecks. No one else in the world does what we do.
7, 8.
When you get to take a new tool or a new technology and then go and test it in the field. That's addictive. That's awesome. That's why I do what I do.
My training is as an electrical engineer. I've had to understand materials. I've had to understand nanotechnologies. I've had to understand aerodynamics.
I think nanotechnology definitely has a lot of potential for medical devices and medical applications.
The question isn't, when are robots going to be a part of your life? The question is how we're going to shape that future.
I realized this is the first time I'm standing on something that I designed.
So I just wanted to share that video. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we gotcha.
Okay, great. Yeah, I just wanted to share that video because there's a lot of exciting things that engineers with National Geographic are doing. But so as an engineer, I deal with technology, and we're living in a very exciting time. You guys get to basically witness these amazing technologies that when I was growing up we didn't have. Things like your cell phones that allow us to do some pretty amazing things, and I'm going to explain some of that in my presentation today. And then, as you saw in the video, there's really cool things we've been doing with robots and drones. We landed a robot the size of a Mini Cooper, which is a big car, a car, right? We landed that on Mars, and that was a pretty amazing thing to do from a technology and an exploration standpoint. And so now, like that technology that we use with cell phones and everything that's come out of robotics has allowed us to build these amazing drones that can do some incredible stuff. So I'll kind of talk a little bit more about that and how I use it to deal with the problem that I work on, and that's conservation. So there's a lot of issues going on with the planet and our wildlife, and we're seeing, unfortunately, a lot of animals dying off and going extinct faster than they're supposed to happen. It's actually one of the fastest times in history. It's what we call the 6th mass extinction, and a lot of that is caused by humans. Our oceans are in a state where overfishing and pollution and a lot of these things that are happening to our oceans are causing a lot of harm. So we want to be able to help our oceans and do some better things to change the course of that. We also capture animals and we sell them, as pets, or people eat them or use them as medicines, and it's really having a big impact on wildlife populations. So we have to become better at protecting those populations. And then there's problems with poaching and killing of animals. I think you guys might have heard of it, but there's the elephants are at risk and the rhinos are at risk, and so we want to do things to make sure that they're going to be okay. And so what I do is I bring a lot of these lower cost technologies, things that have come out of cell phones and stuff like that, to try and change that picture and make sure that we can protect these animals and protect these places into the future. So what I call that is conservation technology, and I use these things like Arduinos, and I'm not sure if you guys have heard of Arduinos, but we could talk about it during the question and answer session. But basically, it takes all the same components that go inside of a cell phone, and they make mini computers, and mini computers that cost $5, $10, $20, and so you could do a lot of really amazing things with it. So what I do is I build systems that can sense the environment and tell us what's happening with the environment, or they can sense when animals are coming nearby, or when people are coming by that are going to try and do bad things to those animals. So that whole project, I call it the Internet of Environmental Things, and the reason why I call it that is because there's this technology called the Internet of Things, and it's the whole idea where everything in your house becomes connected to the internet. So not only is it just your computer, but it's your TV, it's your microwave, it's everything can be connected to the internet and tell you, what it's doing, how it's behaving. It can be better from an energy efficiency standpoint and things like that. So what I'm hoping to do with these sensors and with this Internet of Environmental Things is to be able to have these ecosystems tell us when something's happening, like when there's a poacher in the area or when there's a fire that's happening, and then notify the right people to come and do something to protect those areas. We also build systems that can monitor water and tell if there's pollutants happening in the water, so we can tell if people are doing things like mining or other stuff that can actually hurt these environmental situations. So as Joe said, one of the projects that I work on is in the Okavango, which is an amazing place in Africa. It's in Botswana. And so I'm going to show you a short video that's going to kind of talk about that project, and then I'll tell you what we're doing there to protect those animals.
The Kalahari is the birthplace of our human existence. It's the sanctuary of the sand bushmen who were to 100,000 years ago populate our planet and result in all of us. When you come out here, you get to be part of the cycle of life, the cycle of death.
The Okavango Delta is our mother of the Bayei tribe. We depend in the Okavango Delta. All the food we have, we get it from the Delta.
The source of the Okavango River is on the Bay Plateau in the Angolan highlands. This river then flows 1,000 miles down through Namibia into northern Botswana, where it finds itself in a delta in the middle of the Kalahari Desert. "27 years of war ended in 2002. The development in Angola since then has been rapid. We're looking at the potential for dams, for agricultural developments, for pumping schemes. All of these things are going to change the flood dynamic in this sensitive wetland ecosystem.
If the water disappears, our tribe, they won't survive anymore. Animals as well, they won't survive because they're water dependent.
The urgency is now. We are taking dugout canoes or mekoro with our team down the length of the Okavango River.
The idea of it seems like madness. Never forget who you are.
So to make sure that you keep your eyes open, so that you know where they are, or you listen very well to hear.
Look. Big one in front. Coming around.
We've been living out here, used to sounds of hippos, like you can hear behind me right now. Used to sounds of elephants in the distance, trumpeting about their who knows what, and we've been part of it in an incredible way. This place is really special. I want to work to make this place stay the way it is, to help this place any way I can.
We can bring that place back. We can turn it again into the elephant factory in South Africa.
In the famous dictum, Henry David Thoreau, in wildness is the preservation of humankind. It is the very pulse of this planet. And when we lose these last wilderness areas, like the Okavango Delta, we lose the beating heart of our planet.
So that is kind of the idea, and so what we're doing is we're trying to protect this delta because all these animals, they rely on it as kind of their main place that they get all their food and their water, and we're worried about things that are happening with the waters that feed into the delta. Things like mines or creating dams or doing different stuff that can put pollutants or change the way that the waters come into the delta and help support those animals. And so what my work is building these systems. Here you could see me in Botswana actually building things and soldering things and writing software and stuff to have these things run, and we're planning on putting hundreds of these sensors. And so I have one sitting right next to me that I can show you guys when this presentation is over, but it's sensors like these and smaller ones and different ones that we're putting all over the delta. We've already put a lot out there. But as you saw in the video, it's also, we do a census, a wildlife census, which means we get in these boats and we travel hundreds of miles, thousands of miles through these water systems, and we count the animals that we see. Here you could see a couple elephants in the distance, and so when we can count the number of animals year after year, we get a really good idea of what the health is of those areas and what's happening, and if the animals are declining or if they're increasing. And so we want to know all that information so we know how healthy the delta is. But it's a very, very difficult expedition that we go on. It takes weeks to months for us to go through these areas, and as you can see here, sometimes the water is so low that we have to drag the boats for a very long time wearing these harnesses that you see in this picture. And the grass that you see we're standing in, it's very sharp, and there's things like leeches that get this picture that you see of my feet right there. When I pulled them out of the water, I had 9 leeches that were sucking blood on my legs, and I had to pull them off. And then we also get to see these really amazing animals, things like giraffes and zebras and lions and elephants and all the animals that you guys have heard of in this amazing part of Africa. But one of the animals that we kind of encounter on a basis that more often than we would like to is the hippo. And so the hippos are actually a very, very dangerous animal. They kill more people in Africa than everything else combined. So you have to watch out when you're around a hippo, because they'll charge you and they'll try and get you with those tusks that you see there. So we have a lot of stories where they charged us and they did all sorts of different things. Actually, one of the days of the expedition last year, a hippo charged us underwater and came up and put those 2 big tusks you see through the bottom of one of our boats and flipped our boats upside down. It was a very scary moment. They are very territorial animals, and so they're a lot more kind of angry than you think they are when you see them in cartoons and on the TV. They also do this thing that's very scary, where it's what I like to call the poop tornado. And so what you see here is that the hippo comes up out of water and it starts spinning around its tail really fast like a helicopter, and then it will start pooping, and that's what you see, all those little brown spots all over there flying in the air. And it's meant as a display of being very threatening, like saying, hey, get out of my area, this is my land, you need to move on. So we're very careful when it comes to the hippos. And you saw in the video as well, we deal with crocodiles, which can be also very scary. But we get to have these amazing experiences with elephants, and elephants are such incredible animals. They have such an amazing way that they interact with you. You could talk to an elephant, and so if an elephant comes up to you and it seems to be angry or distressed, all you have to do is very softly say, it's okay, I'm your friend, nothing's gonna happen, blah blah blah, and they'll get very calm by it. It's an amazing thing. And so we're trying to protect these elephants in the delta. And then we see lots of different birds. Like part of the whole project is to count the number of birds, and so these are all vultures that were eating a cow that had died. We see ostriches and lots of amazing stuff. But one of the most exciting parts about our expedition is we share all of it online, real time. And so, instead of gathering all this data and coming back, we have this website called Into the Okavango, where you could follow us as the expedition is going along. You could see each one of those little bubbles are us going on the expedition, and you see all the pictures that we take and the tweets that we send and all the kind of insight we have from the expedition. And then we also share a lot of it on social media. So I know you guys have heard of things like Twitter and Instagram. You probably have some. Well, so we have all those for our expedition as well. And the whole time we're on this expedition, we're sharing this information. And the exciting thing about that is we have this this huge community of people all over the world that are interacting with us while we're out there in the wild. Even we got this tweet last year that was very exciting, and so this was actually Astro Samantha. She was one of the astronauts on the International Space Station, and she was following our expedition. And she actually ended up sending us this tweet of support, wishing us luck. She took this picture from space and actually sent it to us, which is a really exciting thing. It's the only time I've ever had a tweet from somebody who didn't live on planet Earth. And some of the other projects I work on are very similar. This one right here is called Undersea Connection. And so basically what we're doing is we take old cell phones and we put microphones on them when we put them in the ocean. And those microphones in the ocean, which we call hydrophones, they're listening to hear if we hear any fishing activity in places where fishers aren't supposed to be. We're trying to stop illegal fishing and protect kind of marine protected areas in a way that we wouldn't be able to do it before. So we're building a lot of these things and we're putting them out into the oceans. And then I'm also going on an expedition to do more sensor work in this place in Peru called the Boiling River. It's a river where the water is actually boiling. It's very, very hot, and so we're going to explore this from a scientific standpoint and take sensors and try and understand this river in a much greater level. And then I also, I work on a drone project where we use drones to try and protect the ocean. And these are the same types of drones that maybe some of you guys have gotten over Christmas and over the holidays. And so what we do is we try and take these low-cost drones and we'll use them to fly them over the oceans and see if we could see anything happening there that's not supposed to be happening. So this is a little video. I'll just show a couple minutes of it.
I'm Shah Selbe. I'm an engineer, an ocean conservation technologist, and an emerging explorer with the National Geographic Society. This weekend we're in San Simeon on the beautiful coastline of California. We're here because I'm principal investigator for a program called SOAR Ocean, which is a grant that's funded by National Geographic and Lindblad Expeditions to use low-cost UAV or drone technology to monitor and protect our oceans. The value in using UAV technology or drone technology for ocean purposes is there's a lot of reasons why we need to get an aerial vantage point in order to collect more data about our ocean, and something that I specifically focus on is how to stop things like illegal fishing and poaching of our ocean wildlife. It's often way too expensive to fly a manned aircraft and the resources are limited. A lot of times this role falls to the military, but I believe that communities can be empowered to collect the necessary data and help the authorities to better protect these delicate species that we have in our coasts.
So we basically we have this project and we fly around and we look for things like whales and seals and fishing nets that are just floating around the ocean, or people that are fishing in areas where they're not supposed to be doing, and we try and share this information with other scientists or the officials or people in charge that can actually do something about it. So it's kind of an exciting project that we work on now. So these are just a few of the different things that I've been doing. So I basically wanted to share them with you because the world needs a lot of help. There's a lot of things that are going on with the world, and there's more problems out there than people who are trying to actually to solve them. And so when you guys think about the work that you want to do in the future, and when you think about like what you want to do and the impact that you want to make, there's a ton of opportunity that you can do to try and make this world a better place. And so I hope that maybe some of you guys listening to me today will decide that you want to be a conservation technologist as well, and you want to use different technologies to try and protect animals and protect wildernesses and things like that. And so that's basically everything I had for today, and maybe we can go into the Q&A session now.
All right, that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing those adventures with us. And I love the concept of an ecosystem protecting itself, of passing on that information when something's happening there that isn't right or shouldn't be. So what a cool project, and I hope a few students today are inspired to dig a little deeper, and because this is definitely a field that they can get into. Okay, so we have a nice group of classrooms joining us today. I'm going to give them each just a quick little intro, and then we'll start grabbing some questions. So we've got Mrs. McLaren's group, grade 8s from Toronto, in Ontario, Canada. We've got Mrs. DeWerf's group from Taylorville, Illinois. They're grade 8s as well. We've got a double class hanging out together, Mrs. Golchinski and Mrs. Walburn's class from Watoma, Wisconsin. They're grade 3s. Mr. Koshin, his class is from Kakabeka Falls. They're a grade 6-7 class in Canada as well. Then we have Mr. Smith's class joining us from Toronto, Ontario. They're a grade 5-6 class. And I'm actually just going to check here. Mr. Smith, can you hear us? Okay, I think they're watching along, but I think they might be having a little trouble with the microphone. Okay, let's start off with Mr. Koshin's class. Your camera's on. Do you guys have a couple questions for Shah?
Yes, we do.
Hello, I'm Tanner. We're from Kakabeka, and how many different types of technology did you make?
That's a really great question. So I've made a lot of different technologies. Usually when I'm working on a project, I'm working with a nonprofit or I'm working with the community, and we look at the problem. So the types of technology that I make depends on what the problem is. So I'm trying to solve that problem with technology. So that could be things like the sensors that I showed in the video. We could be using drones, like this one right here, or we could even be just making cell phone apps, apps that can help them do better things. We make camera traps sometimes, or as I said, undersea microphones. It all depends on the problem. And so we go into working with an area and trying to protect an area, first finding out what the needs are, and then finding the technologies that will help meet those needs.
Okay, great question. Let's snag one more.
Hi, I'm Jackson, and how long do you fly the drones for?
So that's a very good question. So when I'm flying one of these, the quadcopters with the 4 rotors on it, these things can't fly for very long. Maybe 45 minutes or an hour. That's the most. But I have these big ones with the wings, like the picture that I showed. I have one that has really long wings on it, and that one can fly for a very long time. So it could fly for maybe 5 or 6 hours. Which covers a lot of area, and so ideally the longer you can fly these things, the more you can watch over, like the more area you can take pictures of. And so I want to fly them as long as possible. But when you're trying to fly these kinds of things, they don't stay up for very long. They use a lot of electricity to spin these rotors and stay in place. So it depends on the one that I'm using.
Great questions. Let's head over to Wisconsin and turn on Mrs. Golchinski's microphone.
Hi, I'm Landon. I wanted to know when did you start inventing the FishNET program?
That's a really good question. So I actually started working on it after college. So I went to college. And then I got a job, and when I was going back to school, back to college, back to graduate school, and it was during that time that I started having these ideas and working on it. So that was 7 years ago now. So I've been working on this for 7 years.
All right, you guys have one more for us?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Buzz, and I wanted to ask how heavy is a hippo?
How heavy is a hippo? They weigh the same amount as a minivan. So you see those minivans on the street or in parking lots. That's how much a hippo weighs. It's 3,000 or 4,000 pounds. Very, very heavy. And so when they're running at you, they run fast, and that's like basically a minivan chasing you. One of the scariest things too, I'll share this about hippos, is when they're in the water and they're charging you, they don't actually swim across the top of the water. What they do is they drop to the bottom of the river and they run. And so you see a hippo's head, and then all of a sudden it disappears, and you see this wave coming towards you that is coming from the hippo. So it's a very scary thing. But yeah, they're very heavy.
All right. Another set of great questions. Toronto, Ontario, Mrs. McLaren's group.
The small quadcopter you had with the GoPro under it, about how much did that cost?
So this one, if you want to buy this one, I believe this is one of the older Phantoms. So Phantom is the very popular one that a lot of people have. I think this one you can buy for $500 now. It's relatively cheap. If you want to build one yourself, you can probably build one for $150. And then they have ones that go up in price. I was given this one by the company, by DJI, that makes these, because they like the work that I do and they wanted to donate some drones to allow us to fly them.
Okay, go ahead with another one.
So about how much equipment do you go through a year, like judging by how much you go through?
I'm sorry, I missed that. Can you repeat it?
How much equipment do you go through, like, in a regular year?
Well, so I have a ton of equipment. I have a workshop where I have all these different pieces of electronics, things like this, and sensors. And so every year we kind of have to replace certain things. When these sensor systems, we have to do some maintenance on them and replace them and put newer versions. I'm constantly developing new ones. I've lost drones in the ocean before just because they're flying out too far, or we lost some in the Okavango Delta that ran out of battery while we were flying them, and then they fell into the water, and we try and retrieve them, but you have to be careful because there's crocodiles and things like that in the water, so you don't want to get bit by one of those.
All right, so you can probably hear the announcements in the background, but I'll switch right over to our class in Illinois, our grade 8, so they can ask some questions.
Yeah, questions. Yeah, we have some questions. They're coming up.
Can you see me?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, I'm Alex. I wanted to ask what classes in college and high school would you recommend, because I'm wanting to go into engineering?
Yeah, so I think it's good to get a good basic scientific and mathematical understanding. So science and math are very important, and the thing is, you learn all of these things through high school and college in science and math classes, and then they really become like second nature. So almost things that you know intuitively, and so I use that stuff on a daily basis. But I think also it's good to take classes that maybe allow you to build things and work with your hands, so workshop type courses, because a lot of the work that I do is kind of focused around building things and thinking through that design process and the problem solving process. And so try and keep those two things up, science, math, and any kind of like a physical workshop type stuff.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Emily. I wanted to know, you said that you use parts from old computers and cell phones to make your sensory products. How do you what parts do you take from that? How do you
Yeah,
do that?
That's a great question. So a lot of what we use are these little boards that I showed, like the Arduino. And so what that is you could buy this. It's basically a single board computer, and this one costs $20. And the parts that it has on it that are like what a cell phone has on it is it has the chips, the processors, and basically the batteries that I use are from cell phone. This right here is a board that basically has everything. This is a cellular antenna. This is where you could put a SIM card like a regular cell phone. And so these pieces are basically everything that's inside of the cell phone, but it's made in a way that we could plug sensors into these holes and have it do pretty amazing things. And so that's kind of the basis. So if you want to learn more about that, there are things called Arduinos and Raspberry Pis. Those are kind of the really popular ones that allow you to do that sort of stuff.
Hi, I'm Cheyenne. I was wondering how much on average does it typically cost to make one of these sensors?
That's a really great question. So right now, this version of the sensor, it cost this one was just under $100 to build it. Now while that's still more money than I'd like to do, the amazing thing is that the price of these keeps on getting lower. And this year we have a project where we got a little bit of money to try and build them smaller and bring down the cost to maybe $30 or $50. And the amazing thing about that is, if you think about it, the capabilities that the sensor gives us just 10 years ago, if we wanted to have similar equipment that does that sort of thing, it would have cost $10,000, $20,000, and so the price has gone down from $10,000 or $20,000 to $100. So it's gone down quite a bit.
All right, great questions. I forgot to introduce, I've got some of my 6s and 7s here today. So we're just on our lunch, so a few of them are having their lunch, but I do have a couple questions here. We're in Guelph, Ontario, in Canada. But here's Peyton with a question.
How many drones have you used?
How many drones? That's a very good question. I've used, right now, the number of drones I have, let me see, I have 11 drones right now. So, but I've had more and I've lost them, and I've developed some that didn't really work, and so I think, usually I try and keep maybe around like 4 or 5, just in case something goes wrong. And when I travel to some place, I bring 2 along with me, a primary and a backup, usually.
Okay.
Thanks.
Come on up, Anthony.
I wanted to know, how many species have you seen in Africa?
That's a good question. It's probably pretty hard to answer. I've gone to Africa a lot, and I've gone to many different countries there. I'd say maybe it's above 100 in terms of the different species that I've seen.
Okay.
Maybe 200, something like that.
Okay, one more question from Sterling.
Have you ever made any drones?
Yes, yeah, I've actually made a lot of drones. When I was first starting out on this project, it was 2 years ago, and the types of drones that I wanted to fly, they weren't actually very commercially available, and so I had to make them myself. And so those first couple I made, and then now there's so many drones that you can buy now that I just buy them because it's easier to buy them.
Okay. Well, Shah, do you have enough time maybe if I just visit each classroom just for a final question?
Sure, yeah, that'd be great.
All right. Mr. Koshin's class, if you guys have a final question for Shah, your mic's on.
What do you enjoy most about both of your jobs?
Yeah, so I think that's a great question. I think the space job, the satellite job, I really like working launch and mission control. So that's where I'm sitting behind the computer and I have the headpiece in it, and I say things like propulsion is go for launch, and that whole thing is a lot of fun because we do things on the computers that makes a satellite that's in space react, and so it's almost like a really big video game, right? I press a button and something in space moves, so that's pretty exciting. The other job, the conservation technology job, I love being out in the wild. I love being around animals and being very, very out far beyond any cell phones and anything, where it's just you in the wilderness. And so I love going out there and doing that sort of thing. I think it's fun, it's exciting, it's adventurous, and just it's really great.
Okay, Mrs. McLaren's class in Toronto, a wrap-up question.
What type of technology was in that solar panel thing?
So yeah, so inside of the solar panel it's basically these kinds of boards and a battery. So I can show you guys some of that technology. So yeah, as I said, there's boards inside of here that allow us to save the data and collect the data, and there's a battery system in here. There's a GPS, so it knows where it's at. So yeah, so that all those technologies kind of come together to make one of the sensor systems.
Okay, back to Illinois, to the grade 8s for a wrap-up question.
That's us. We have one.
All right.
Okay. So you said that you're using social media, and you're posting, and you're how do you get internet connection out there?
That's a very good question. So we use satellites. We have basically these satellite devices that allow us to send a signal up through a satellite system and then back down, and it gives us internet, just the regular internet that everybody uses. Now, using satellites is a lot more expensive than using cell phones or Wi-Fi, so we don't do it all the time. We just do it kind of on specific intervals, and the satellite unit that sends up all our data real time, that one just sends up data. But if we want to do things like interact on Twitter or do a hangout and stuff like that, then we have to actually use the bigger satellite system that costs a little bit more money.
All right, so Mrs. Golchinski's class, they just messaged me. They do have a final question, so I'll turn their mic on in Wisconsin.
All right, most of us left, but we have one more here for you.
How important is math for your job?
That's a very good question. So math is very important for my job. It's you know, being an engineer, I've taken a lot of math in my life, and I have to become very comfortable with math to be able to do the types of calculations that will let us, you know, build these things and protect these areas. And so math was always a subject that it wasn't my favorite, but I knew that I needed to know it. I knew that I needed to learn it, so I just kept on pushing and learning and kept on it until I ended up getting good at it.
All right, that's a great point, because math is a hugely important part of science that I don't think students often realize. My classroom, we have one more question here from Michael.
Have any of the satellites you've made it to any other planets?
That's a really good question. Unfortunately, no. All of the ones that I've worked on have been just around Earth orbit, and so they just stay around planet Earth. Most of the ones that I worked on are geosynchronous orbit, which basically means that they're really far out from the Earth. They're far enough that as the Earth is spinning, it's always just looking at one part of the Earth. So that's a very long distance, but it's still around Earth. It's still around Earth.
All right, and so I just got a message from Mr. Smith's class. They're joining us from Toronto. They're a 5-6 class. They're having some microphone problems, but I think we might be able to hear them. Can you guys hear us, Mr. Smith? Okay, maybe if you can just type your question and send it to us over the chat sidebar. So while we're waiting for that question, Shah, what's next? What's on the horizon for you?
So I'm going back to Africa. I'm going back to Botswana and Angola to build more of these, put more of these systems out there. There's, as I said, there's projects in Peru. We're going to some islands in the Pacific Ocean. I'm going to Belize to do a lot of this kind of work. And so next is a lot more of these exciting projects. So.
Okay, Mr. Smith's class, if you do have a question, feel free to send it via the chat sidebar. I know you just sent me a message. Yeah, and for our next hangout, we'll see if we can get the video issue resolved for you. But if you do have a question, please type it in the sidebar. You have a question? Okay, here's one more from my class, Shah.
Sure.
There's a couple girls coming up. Strength in numbers. They have to come up in a group. Oh, you want it to come? Are you going to ask a question?
Five asking the question. Five, get it.
Okay.
Five, this was your idea.
All right. I guess it's not going to happen. Well, I mean, I'll keep an eye out for that question. Oh, here it is. Mr. Smith's class is asking, Shah, what's your inspiration for helping wildlife?
Oh, so that's a very good question. So I kind of talked about it very briefly earlier. But my inspiration is basically the wildlife on this planet is at risk right now. Since 1970 to today, we've lost 52% of the wildlife on this planet, the population numbers. And so we're kind of in this situation where we have to protect as much as we can to make sure that they'll last for generations. And we have things like climate change and ocean acidification and all these big problems that the Earth's facing that's going to impact the amount of animals out there. And so I love animals. I've always been a big outdoors person and environmentalist, and so I just want to protect as many of them as I can, because when you're out there and you actually see them, it's an amazing thing.
Okay, and we'll wrap with one more question. The girls are back, and they do have a question. We're going to get the question out. Go ahead.
How many countries have you visited?
How many countries have I been to? That's a really great question. I think right now the number is 29 is the number of countries that I've been to. So it's a lot of countries, but not quite as much as some of my other explorer friends who have been to, almost 100.
Okay, well, Shah, I mean, I can't thank you enough. This was a great hangout. I know for sure there's going to be some students going home and looking up some of the places, some of the technology you were using. So I think this was a great hangout. Really excited we had so many classes joining us from so many spots in North America. What I'm going to do now is turn on the microphones, give the classrooms a chance to say goodbye and thank you, because it was a blast. Shah, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for all the great questions, too.
All right, microphones are oh, I should say, too, if you want to dig a little deeper, I believe it's shahselbe.com. They can, yeah, and then what's the website for Into the Okavango?
It's intotheokavango.org.
All right, excellent. So I'm turning the mics on, classrooms, if you want to say goodbye and thank you, and we'll sign out for today. All right, thanks everybody. Awesome session. Mr. Smith's class is saying thank you as well. My class says thank you. There they are. All right, signing off for today. Thanks everybody.
All right, thank you.